Western Railroad. It was built in 1918 for the U.S. Railroad Administration. In 1918, the railroads hadn't figured out how to interchange their cars, and they were making a right mess of shipping war materials around for the First World War. Well, Uncle Sam said, enough of this. If you can't figure yourselves out, I'll do it for you. And he took over the railroads and decided, instead of having every little place build its own engine design, we're going to come up with the standard engine designs that are going to work everywhere. And that's how you got the USRA locomotives. Now, the 4070 is what's called a light Mikado. What does that mean? Well, light. Light means that it's the smaller of two Mikado designs. There were light Mikados and heavy Mikados. What's a Mikado? Well, the Mikado is the Emperor of Japan, and that's only slightly important right now. In railroad terms, the Mikado has two small wheels at the front, four big driving wheels in the middle. Pay no attention to the missing hole! And two small wheels at the back. 2, 8, 2. We call that a Mikado type. Why? Well, traditionally, the first engine of any type, it becomes the namer of that type. And the first 282 locomotive was built and exported to Japan. Thus, they became known as Mikado, emperors of Japan. During the war, some people decided that it was unpatriotic to call it a Mikado. Showboaty people who decided that they should call it a MacArthur instead. In my humble opinion, MacArthur deserved that honor not. Consequently, sanity prevailed. We still call these Mikados today. The less said about MacArthur, the better. Now, 4070 herself. In 1918, she was built. She was allotted to the Grand Trunk Western Railroad. She spent her entire life running freight back and forth across the flatlands of southern Michigan. 1952, she went nose down into the turntable pit, was pulled out, set aside with a patch repair, and put on third string duty. Because of that, she was still hanging around in the early 60s when steam went away, but she wasn't immediately scrapped. And that gave the opportunity for preservation societies such as our own to swoop in, purchase the locomotive, and save it. In the beginning, it started its career out by operating trips from Chicago. You may have heard of the infamous Rail Tour from Hell, in which the locomotive almost ran out of water and then spent another 12 hours trying to get back to Chicago because it lost its signaling window and had to go in between all the regularly scheduled freight trains. That was, in fact, this locomotive that you see before you today. Later, it worked short trips out at Conneaut Lake Park in eastern PA before eventually settling in Cleveland as its home, first at the overflow tracks up at the Terminal Tower and later down here. Once we were settled in at the Roundhouse, it became possible through an agreement with the National Park Service to run excursion trains in the Cuyahoga Valley, and that's how the Cuyahoga Valley line was born. Eventually, there would be a disagreement between the operating company and the owners of the locomotive. The CVSR would spin off and have their own operation, and here we are today, Midwest Railway Preservation Society, with the engine. For some reasons, there were actions taken at that time to immobilize the locomotive, and unfortunately it hasn't steamed since 1991, after it had originally gone down with a mechanical fault in the pistons on the fireman's side here. We are currently in the process of attempting to restore this locomotive to operational condition. Last year we put about $50,000 in money and labor into repairing the main frame with a weld. You see, when it fell in the pit back 70 years ago in 1952, it was cracked. And they did weld it, but they didn't do a full job of it. They only did a surface patch. Well, later, as the stresses of excursion service wore on, that failed. And that crack opened up, which introduced some flexion into the locomotive's frame, and unfortunately probably caused the downfall of the locomotive from service. We've now rectified that fault, which brings us on to restoring the rest of the engine, which is to say that the pressure vessel, the boiler system, is in mostly good shape, but will need some work in the firebox area. We have to renew all of the bearing surfaces in the driveline, as well as fit new cylinder liners and reset all of the valve gear that goes into making this locomotive work. Any questions about the 4070?
One quick one.
Yes, sir.